Michael Walker, a black hotel owner, finds himself thrown out of his own establishment, unaware of the storm about to unfold. The staff, judging him solely on his appearance, quickly decide whether he belongs, without realizing the twist that will change their lives. When the truth comes to light, it will not only alter their fates, but challenge the very system that allows such injustice to persist. What happens next will shock even those who think they've seen it all. But let's begin at the start. To join the fight against systemic bias and injustice, subscribe and like. Every action you take brings us closer to change. Today, Michael Walker stood at the entrance of his hotel. Instead of relying on reports, he decided to personally observe how his staff behaved. Staying hidden in the shadows was essential, allowing him to see the true picture. The hotel looked flawless. The marble floors gleamed, the chandeliers sparkled, and the staff at the reception appeared professional. But Michael knew appearances didn't always reflect reality. Dressed modestly in jeans and a jacket, with no clear signs of his high status, Michael might have seemed like any other guest, and that was exactly what he hoped for. It gave him a chance to see how the staff interacted with the visitors. At first glance, everything in the lobby appeared calm. Still, Michael couldn't shake a feeling of unease. Having faced prejudice and racism many times before, he wondered if it could happen here in his own hotel. When he approached the front desk, the receptionist, a young man named Tom, didn't even acknowledge him. Michael stood there, waiting for a greeting, but the silence stretched too long. Finally, Tom looked up reluctantly, offering a cold, dismissive glance, visibly displeased by the interruption. With no effort to smile, he asked, "Can I help you?" Immediately, Michael sensed a shift in the atmosphere. It was the familiar sting of being judged based on appearance, not merit. Staying composed, Michael asked about available rooms, although he already knew the answer. He simply wanted to test Tom's reaction. Tom barely glanced at the computer screen, not bothering to check properly. "Sorry, all rooms are booked," he said flatly, turning to another staff member as if Michael no longer existed. Holding his ground, Michael suppressed his frustration. This scenario was all too familiar. His modest appearance placed him in the undesirable category. It wasn't a coincidence, and he decided not to leave, but instead to see how far the situation would go. Despite the cold reception, Michael remained at the desk, his disappointment growing, but he had faced this before. He wanted to see just how deep the staff's prejudice ran. He repeated his request calmly. "Could you please check my reservation? I booked a room in advance." Tom, clearly irritated that Michael hadn't left, sighed heavily, showing no politeness. With a reluctance that spoke volumes, Tom started checking the system. Every movement, every glance, made it clear Michael was just an inconvenience to be removed. After a few taps on the keyboard, Tom barely concealed a smirk as he replied, "Sorry, I don't see a reservation here." His tone implied, "Get lost." Michael felt the tension rising within him, but kept his composure. This was nothing new. He recognized the behavior of being judged solely on how he looked. Tom didn't even try to hide his contempt. But Michael wasn't backing down. Calmly, he asked again, "Could you check once more?" Tom rolled his eyes, visibly annoyed, but the request was clear. Anna, another staff member, overheard the conversation, glanced briefly at Michael, and whispered something to Tom before stepping back. "Maybe we should just kick him out," she whispered loud enough for Michael to hear. Those words stirred a mixture of anger and disappointment within Michael. He had faced this attitude countless times, as though his very presence didn't belong. Tom turned to Michael again. "I already told you, we don't have any rooms for you. Maybe you should find somewhere else to stay." His sneer made it clear. This wasn't about the hotel or a reservation. It was about race, about Michael not fitting the image of a proper guest. The administrator's words hung in the air, a stark reminder that such discrimination was not a simple misunderstanding. It was rooted in a system steeped in prejudice. Every encounter like this reminded Michael that his achievements, his status, could be disregarded in an instant simply because of his skin color. A surge of anger boiled inside, but he tried to stay calm. His father's words echoed in his mind. You have to work twice as hard and be twice as good because the world will always judge you by your skin, not your abilities. His father had lived by that lesson, teaching Michael that respect must be earned, even when the system worked against you. But each time he faced situations like this, it felt as if all those efforts were devalued. Doubts crept in. Should he fight now, or just walk away? Michael knew, however, that this moment was bigger than just an argument with employees. It was a test of a much larger system. If he walked away without revealing his identity, it would mean accepting that such treatment was normal. It would mean allowing injustice to continue unchallenged. Michael thought of the other guests who might have faced similar treatment, but didn't have the power to stand up for themselves. His inner conflict grew stronger. Should he reveal his authority now, or let the situation play out a little longer to see just how far these people would push their bias? The decision came quickly. Michael wasn't just a guest here. He was the owner. And this was his opportunity to confront the system directly. As he stood his ground, Tom, losing patience, looked to Anna for support. Arms crossed, Tom spoke, his voice dripping with irritation. I said there are no rooms for you. I don't know what's so hard to understand, but you need to leave. The hostility in his tone left no doubt. This wasn't just a refusal of service. It was an attempt to expel Michael as an unwanted guest. Anna, sensing the growing tension, stepped closer, adding, maybe we should call security. We don't have time for this kind of problem. The word problem hung in the air like a sentence. Michael could hear the subtext loud and clear. They didn't want someone like him here. He looked at both of them, his expression calm, though inside, a storm of anger and disappointment was brewing. Many in his position would have left by now, worn down by a system so openly hostile. But now was not the time to give in. He decided to stay, to see just how far this prejudice would go. Tom nodded to Anna, who wasted no time in calling security. Within minutes, 2 large security guards appeared in the lobby. Their presence intensified the tension. One of them, tall and broad, walked straight up to Michael without a word. Sir, you've been asked to leave the hotel. We'll escort you out, he said, his tone making it clear there was no room for negotiation. Michael's heart raced as he realized the situation was escalating into a confrontation. The guards weren't interested in understanding what was happening. They were simply there to enforce the decision made by the receptionist. This was a textbook example of systemic racism, where one person's prejudice becomes the group's decision without question. Suppressing his rage, Michael replied firmly, I'm not leaving. I have the right to be here. The guards exchanged glances, and the second one, now even harsher, added, if you don't leave voluntarily, we'll have to use force. The situation had reached its boiling point. Michael knew it was time to reveal who he truly was. As the guards moved toward him, one of them reached for Michael's arm to forcibly remove him. That action was the final straw. Michael knew that if he allowed himself to be pushed out, it would be more than a personal defeat. It would be an unspoken admission that systemic bias and discrimination could go unchecked. With a swift motion, Michael freed his arm, leaving the guard stunned, and calmly said, It seems you don't know who you're dealing with. The security guards exchanged confused glances. One sneered dismissively, Who might you be? Michael, unshaken, reached into his inner jacket pocket and pulled out his wallet. He showed them his ID, revealing that he was not just any guest, but the owner of the hotel and an entire chain of hotels. Tom, Anna, and the guards froze, their faces transforming instantly from arrogance to shock. The gravity of the situation was now undeniable. This is a joke, right? Anna muttered weakly, staring at Michael's ID, but her disbelief couldn't hide the truth. He was indeed the owner. The situation was now completely out of their control. You've just tried to throw the owner of the hotel out because you judged me by how I look, Michael said, his voice calm but resolute. This story of Michael Walker highlights a powerful moment of resistance against systemic racism and bias. It's a compelling narrative that not only shines a light on the personal struggles individuals face in environments marked by prejudice, but also explores the broader implications of those struggles on society. Michael's decision to confront his staff, his calm but authoritative demeanor, and his firm insistence on seeing change within his hotel are all pivotal to understanding how individuals in positions of power can challenge and shift the dynamics of prejudice. His unwavering stance not only exposes the deep-seated bias within the institution but also calls for systemic transformation, not just surface-level changes. The support from his family, particularly from his wife, Leah, anchors him in a way that gives him the strength to keep pushing for change, reinforcing that even in the most difficult moments, community support is key. The tension in the hotel lobby, followed by Michael's reveal of his true identity as the owner, is a dramatic turning point, making a strong statement about how assumptions based on appearance can dictate treatment, often to the detriment of the system's integrity and its participants. This story serves as a reminder that change begins with individuals willing to challenge the status quo, and the battle against discrimination, though fraught with challenges, is one worth fighting with persistence, courage, and a vision for a better, more just society. Michael's journey, though difficult, signals a shift towards progress, where each act of resistance paves the way for future changes.